So you are thinking of moving to Switzerland, or you're just curious about what it is like to actually live here, then this video is just for you. I moved to Switzerland approximately 4 years ago, and I went through all of the adult stages in this country, aka studying, working a 9 to 5, starting a business, or several ones to be exact, and even finding love. And while I do believe that all those chapters could be a separate video or separate videos, today I will try to give you an overall take of the pros and cons of living in Switzerland. At this point, I think it is pretty important to make this disclaimer that I have only lived in the French-speaking part of Switzerland, because the French-speaking, the German-speaking, and the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland are quite different, and not just in terms of language, even culturally you will find a lot of differences. My experience is only on the French-speaking part, and specifically in Geneva and recently in Lausanne. I like to think that I am a very positive person, so I think I will start with the advantages. And advantage number one for me has definitely got to be the fact that the system is systeming. And if you're not speaking my language, I'm referring to the fact that there is an extreme amount of order in the country. Maybe the difference is way more profound to me because I am originally Greek, and in Greece we have several problems when it comes to administration, when it comes to public transportation, when it comes to anything public, to be honest. So this for me was a huge difference and a huge shock. So as I mentioned, the country is extremely organized. There are set processes for anything and everything that you might need. The administrative process is sometimes a little bit exhausting because not everything is digitalized, but overall it's pretty straightforward without any complications or confusions. And for me, once again, coming from a country that complications and confusion when it comes to administrative processes is just an absolute must, I would definitely say that here it was just a huge change and definitely a huge relief. Advantage number two is exactly what you had in mind, aka the financial aspect of living here. I know that a lot of people, when they think of Switzerland, the first thing that comes to mind is the extremely high cost of living. And to be fair, the cost of living here is just extraordinary. But in my humble opinion, it's the absolute best option when it comes to Europe, because despite the very high cost of living, the analogy of what you earn and what you spend here is just unparalleled. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, the minimum salary here is approximately 4,360 CHF. And for those of you who don't know, Swiss francs are approximately the same as the euro in terms of value, give or take. So with that kind of money, even though it is not a lot of money considering the cost of living here, you can still pay all of your basic expenses and even manage to keep a little bit of money on the side, which is not possible in big cities like London or Paris or Milan. You also need to keep in mind that this number can quickly go up if you have several years of experience in your field, if you have a master's degree, or you work in certain fields like tech, consulting, medicine, and law. Advantage number three has definitely got to be the network and the possibilities of networking. I guess this is a reality in many big cities, but I would say that it is more of an advantage here because of the character and the size of the country and the cities themselves. Specifically, Geneva is an extremely international city with so many people from all over the world, extremely business and money oriented. So potentially you do have the opportunity to meet a lot of people who have important jobs or important careers from all over the world. And it is significantly easier to network once you actually start to meet people, because it is a relatively small city. So in a sense, everybody knows everybody. So once you actually start, like breaking in and making some connections, it goes by way faster compared to a city like New York, where it could literally take you a lifetime to meet majority of the important people in the city. Advantage number four, especially for me as a woman, has definitely got to be the safety aspect of the country. I mean, obviously there are some incidents of theft or assault, like I believe in pretty much every country, but with the whopping 74% safety index, it is one of Europe's safest countries, and to be honest, it also feels like it. Personally, I have never felt any danger or ever felt any concern day or night, and to be honest, it is absolutely so appreciated. Advantage number four is the geographical position of the country. So Switzerland is basically in the heart of Europe, which makes it extremely easy to discover other countries and just leave for 2 or 3 days, because pretty much every European destination is 2 to 3 hours away by plane or train. So it makes it so easy for people to just hop around countries and just discover so much more than just Switzerland. Advantage number 6, it is pretty expected, and it is the taxes. So it is indeed one of Europe's most advantageous countries when it comes to taxation, with a maximum flat rate of 11.5% tax on personal income and a credibility stamp like no other. Small disclaimer that there are other taxes that are levied on a cantonal level other than the taxes that you pay on a federal level. But in any case, and even though there are other European destinations with great tax regulation, I would argue that none of them have actually the prestige and the credibility of Switzerland. And at the same time, I do think that realistically, the taxation of Switzerland doesn't come anywhere close to the taxation of neighboring France, for example, with 55.4%, Austria with 55%, Denmark with 55.9%, etc., etc., etc. And lastly, advantage number 7, it is a little bit particular as it only applies to people who are interested in freelancing or entrepreneurship altogether, but the country offers great incentives when it comes to starting a business here, and overall it is much easier to do freelancing here or to start a business from zero than anywhere else in Europe, at least. So I don't want to rumble about it too much, as I know that it only interests a very small part of the people who might watch this video, but if you do have any more technical questions regarding that, then feel free to leave them in the comments and I will obviously try to help. And now that you've had all this great information about all those amazing advantages when it comes to living in Switzerland, you are probably wondering, so yay, what is there not to love? And I should have probably started with the negative ones, because I feel like finishing off with the negative ones makes me look like a hater, which, by the way, I'm absolutely not. I chose to spend the rest of my life here, which should be somehow indicative of what I think of the country. But anyways, I am going to go ahead and list some of the disadvantages for me. And another disclaimer here is obviously the fact that some of those things are a disadvantage for me, but they're not objectively a disadvantage, and you're about to understand what it is that I'm talking about. So disadvantage number 1, for me, it is definitely the social culture here. Once again, I think my opinion is heavily affected by the fact that I come from a Mediterranean country where I'm used to a culture of people that are very warm, very willing to help, with a very strong and great sense of community. And here in Switzerland, in my experience at least, you will not find much of that. Most expats hang out with other expats or with people that they got to know through work or any business deals, but it is pretty rare that you can make friendships here completely out of the blue. Once again, in my experience, people here are very reserved. They have very tight circles of people, and they will very rarely go out of the way to help you if it doesn't somehow benefit them. There is also an absolute lack of sense of community here. A very staggering example for me is that people that live in buildings, they don't even know who are their neighbors. They would never even, like knock on your door to ask for something. And sometimes you are even in the elevator and people won't even say good morning, even though you're literally standing there for like 30 seconds looking at each other and just being awkward. Another important point, and a little bit annoying, especially for people who love nightlife, is the absolute lack of nightlife, especially in a weekday, except from Thursdays that are pretty lively, I would say here. On any other weekday, if you go out past 6 p.m, the chances of actually meeting people are, well, non-existent. So if you do love nightlife and you're some kind of a night bird, I think it will definitely take you a little bit of time to get adapted to the new rhythm of life and just embrace the calmness. And needless to say that, especially on weekdays, but even sometimes on weekends, it is very hard to find places that stay open past 12 p.m. There are some clubs, obviously, that do that only during the weekends, but overall, there is a complete lack of like cool places, nice places, lively places, especially on the weekdays. Disadvantage number 2 is competitiveness and the money culture. So there are definitely a lot of work opportunities in the country, but the market is extremely extremely competitive, which, to be fair, it makes sense considering the many advantages of actually working and living in this country. So if you do want to come work in Switzerland, there is definitely a possibility to do that. But I would say that you need to take your time to do your research and apply to as many jobs as possible. And at the same time, try to network and connect with people as much as possible, because the job market here gets massively affected by connections and recommendations. And sometimes it matters even more than your actual skills. All of that is not to make you feel discouraged or anything like that, but just to say that you have to be ready and you have to be strategic about it. To that, I would also add my money culture complaint, which is basically the fact that people here just chase money so much and so profoundly, which it makes sense in a country that literally the national product is money. But it is also a little bit uncomfortable, especially to me, because often it feels like people value money more than other things in life, which I personally consider more important, like family and friendships. That being said, I do understand that everyone's priorities and everyone's ambition and life aspirations are totally different, and that's totally fine. But I will definitely say that the whole money chasing culture here is extremely more profound than in any other country I have personally lived in or visited. Disadvantage number 3 is something that I feel like every single person who has ever moved to Switzerland can relate to, especially in the big cities of Switzerland, and it has got to be housing. Apartment hunting in Geneva or in Zurich is just absolutely no joke. The demand is just ridiculous. There are so many people looking for an apartment and the supply is not so immense. So that leaves us with a lot of buildings that are pretty old, but they still remain overpriced, because when you have really high demand and not that high supply, the price is not going to go anywhere down. So I would definitely say that you need to count anywhere between 3 to 6 months for your apartment hunting process, and just try to apply as much as possible for apartments, and even try to see who do you know, how you can make connections, because the choice of who actually gets the apartment at the end of the day often comes down to who earns the most, or who has some sort of connection to the owner of the building / apartment, or if you know someone at the régie, which is the managing company of the building. So brace yourselves, just be persistent. You will find an apartment eventually. It just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of patience. Disadvantage number 4 has got to be the cost of health insurance. I was definitely not ready for how much money you are obliged to pay every single month for health insurance. So apart from students, every adult of the age of 25 has to pay approximately 400 Swiss francs every single month for health insurance. Keep in mind that this kind of money is not optional. It doesn't matter if you never get sick. It doesn't matter if you never use your health insurance card. If you want to stay in the country, if you want to be a Swiss resident, you need to have health insurance. And the amount that I just described is pretty standard. It can go a little bit up, a little bit down based on where you're living and which kind of insurance you have, but it is mandatory. If you're under the age of 25, you still have to pay, but I do believe that is anywhere between 100 and 200 Swiss francs less, again, depending on which canton you actually live and which health insurance you have a contract with. Especially for me, coming from a country where public health is absolutely free. You can go to any public hospital and you pay absolutely nothing. I have got to say that I was definitely shocked to figure out that I have to pay 400 Swiss francs every single month for my health insurance. And lastly, disadvantage number 5 for me is the weather. I know that this is not necessarily a disadvantage for everyone. I know there are people who love the cold, who love the rain. I'm definitely not one of those people. I mean, I absolutely love a rainy day that is cozy and I can stay in and just, you know, be cozy and just watch a movie and all that. But when you have to go to work, you have to go in and out of public transportation and you just need to run errands and all that, it is absolutely no joke. Winter in Switzerland is pretty cold, and obviously every year is different, but the rain here is absolutely no joke. There has been years in Switzerland that I have experienced months, like a month straight, where it is raining every single day, no joking. It is not very often, but it happens a lot. But in any case, there's a lot of rain. So if you do not love this type of weather, then it will definitely be a problem. And also you have to consider that in Switzerland, you get approximately like 2 months of summertime, give or take. But personally, once again, I'm not a big fan of summer in Switzerland for the very simple reason that it is extremely humid, which for me, it makes it insufferable. And also because in Switzerland, for the most part, you are not allowed to have air conditioning in your house. It just doesn't exist as a concept. Very often you don't even find air conditioning in businesses or like buildings that are for commercial use. Because of the legislation of the country, that's another story. But anyways, when it's like pretty hot, like on a days where it's like 30 or 33 or 34 degrees, it is just insufferable. So that is definitely another thing to consider if you actually want to move to Switzerland. And with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful, and I hope you figured out several things that you maybe didn't know about Switzerland. In any case, if you did find this video useful, please consider subscribing, leaving a like and a comment, as it really helps the algorithm understand that this is a valuable video and it can help other people just like you. As per usual, you will find all of my resources and all of my links in the description box below. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in my next video.